Am I the a-hole for completely altering my daughter's face? I am making a choice whether to completely change my daughter's face, and I need some perspective. I'm not sure if I'm making the right decision as a parent. Me and my daughter used to be absolutely inseparable. I'm a single mother and I raised her on my own since she was a newborn. I gave birth to her alone in the hospital with no family or friends. Ever since she entered this world, it has just been me and her. She was the most well-behaved, sweetest little girl. Despite how hard motherhood was and how much I struggled, she remains the light of my life, and I can't imagine my life without her. My little girl turned 14 a couple of months ago and started high school. She is a bubbly, happy girl, and I was not surprised when she started to make friends quickly. It turns out the friends she had been making were really into alternative fashion, and my daughter began to follow suit. She asked me to buy her darker clothes and a few pairs of big chunky black shoes. I love my daughter and I always wanted her to be happy, so I gladly let her make all these changes to her appearance. I remember what it was like to be a teenage girl and to be finding yourself and trying new styles. She asked to dye her hair a bright color, and even though I was nervous about damage, I agreed. The next thing she asked for was to pierce her nose. I thought she would look really pretty with a nose stud, and I agreed to this as well. But it didn't stop at her nose piercing. After she put a hoop in her nose, she asked for more and more piercings. Even though she was spending more time out of the house and with her friends, she was still doing well in school. Therefore, I agreed to let her get all the piercings she wanted. My daughter now has 7 piercings in her face. I'll be honest, sometimes I really miss how my little girl's bare face used to look, but she still has her same wide smile even if it's covered in metal. Everything in our lives was okay up until about last month, when her grades started dropping out of nowhere. I went to her school to have a meeting with her guidance counselor about her grades. Her counselor informed me that my daughter had been skipping class and leaving school early, and that's why her grades were suffering. Afterward, I had a long talk with my daughter at home that resulted in our very first argument. She got frustrated when I told her she needed to spend less time with her friends and more time at school. I explained that I would have to punish her if I found out she was skipping class again. She raised her voice at me in response and told me to get off of her back. With that, she ran to her room and slammed the door, ending the conversation. She made me cry that night, and I wondered if things would only get worse. I could not have been more correct. In the last 2 weeks, my daughter has been spending more and more time out of the house and with her friends. When she came home past curfew one night, I took her phone away as a punishment. This only made her more resentful of me. She barely speaks to me now, and when she does, it's in short, dry sentences. I have already been feeling desperate and confused as a parent, but things totally exploded the other night. I woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, but as I was heading back to bed, I had this sinking feeling in my chest that I should go check on my daughter. When I went to my daughter's room, it was completely empty. I had never experienced pure panic like that before in my life. I thought maybe she had been kidnapped or something worse that I wasn't thinking of. I grabbed my phone to try and call her, but the moment I pressed her contact name, I remembered that I had taken away her phone. I started crying, feeling like a failure as a parent. I took a couple of deep breaths and tried to calm down. That's when I realized that most likely she had snuck out to go see her friends in the middle of the night. I took one last deep breath and sat at the kitchen table, putting a timer on my phone for a half hour. I told myself that if she wasn't home by the time it rang, I was calling the police. Only 15 minutes later, at about 3:30 a.m., I heard our front door open extremely slowly. I heard the unmistakable sound of my daughter's giggle and stayed seated. When my daughter walked up the stairs and saw me, she gave me a deer in the headlights look and started mumbling some sort of explanation. She was doing everything she could to avoid eye contact with me, so I walked over to her and held her chin to look in her eyes. That's when the stink of alcohol hit me. Her breath smelled like straight tequila. All the pain and frustration from the past month caught up to me, and I lost it on her. I screamed at her and asked her why she was doing this to me, why she was doing this to herself. I said that this could not go on and that I was worried for her and that something needed to change. I told her that she couldn't just do what she wanted and that I was scared she would get hurt if she kept acting like this. My intoxicated daughter just laughed at me and told me to leave her alone. She attempted to turn away from me and walk upstairs. This is when I felt rage come over me. She had used up my last string of patience. I put my hand on her shoulder and physically turned her around to face me. That's when I put my hand flat in front of her face and pointed to the center of my palm. "Take them out," I said, referring to her piercings. I demanded she take out every single one of her piercings and put them in my hand right now. My daughter asked me if I was serious and I didn't answer. That's when she herself lost it and crumpled into a ball of tears on the kitchen floor. She begged me not to, and said that she couldn't remove them safely even if she wanted to. Between sobs, she said she would rather die than take her piercings out. It hurt me so bad to see my daughter so upset, but I just didn't know what else she cared about anymore. I realized that it really wasn't a good idea for her to drunkenly remove these piercings. I told her we would be going to the tattoo shop tomorrow morning to get them all removed. She kept crying and begged some more, but I told her to go straight up to her room. Now that it's the next morning, I am feeling even more conflicted. I know my daughter needs some sort of reality check, but I don't want to make her hate me. I have called the tattoo shop and made an appointment for today, but I don't know if I will actually be dragging my daughter there. I wanted to share my perspective and maybe get some input from any other parents who have been in a similar position. I just want my little girl to be safe and to love me again just like she did when she was a child.